I think Gershon's a freak of nature. He can shoot the ball. He's got good feet. He's the dancing bear.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily podcast on fantasy basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Fantrax and Basketball Monster. And today's Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast is also brought to you by Ravi Chiravuri, who is today's Patreon sponsor. If you want to be a Patreon sponsor, head across to patreon.com/redrock_bball. My name is Josh Lloyd, and as always, you can find me on Twitter at redrock_bball, the same handle on Instagram, and facebook.com/redrockbasketball. The NBA, a lot happened. As per usual, there were 10 games, there was confusion, there was season impacting type moves. There's lots for us to talk about, so
let's get to it.
I definitely will. But just for all you guys who are watching along live on Facebook, just hit that thumbs up, just hit that like button, hit it a couple of times while you're watching it. It's great when we do that. It helps get it out to more people and helps get the show out to some more eyes. So if you could hit that like while you're watching, that would be fantastic. All right, let's get stuck into it, talking about these games that went on Wednesday. We're going to talk about all the news from Phoenix. Don't worry, we'll get to that. Let's start with the monstrous line of the night, and that is Paul George of the Indiana Pacers. George has been disappointing, I think, at times this season. 39 points for George, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 6 triples. He was 15 of 21 from the field. He had 3 steals, and he was a perfect 3 of 3 from the line. I've talked at length about George and the way that he tends to slide as the season progresses. And that was once again true, but over the last 2 weeks, he's the 5th ranked player. We've seen his field goal percentage shoot back up to 55%. He's averaging 28 and 8.5 with 3 assists, 3.5 threes, and over a steal a game. And the big part of that is the fact that he is shooting 55%. He was at 45 for the year, and he was dipping down to the 42-43 range for a couple of months there in January, February. That's corrected itself. The other thing that he is, and I think it's probably a little bit underrated, is the fact that he's a 92% shooter from the free throw line over the course of the season on almost 5 attempts. That is a big contribution in that category, and he's actually upped it over the last month to 97%. That is a ludicrous amount of free throws to hit. He's been fantastic there, and really at this key point of the year, Paul George owners are pretty happy with what he's giving, because he was a guy that you might have picked at the end of the first round, start of the second, who was giving you back-end second round value. Now he's giving you top-end first round value, and that's obviously useful as you're smack bang in the middle of fantasy playoffs. So the monstrous line of the night goes to Paul George. Let's now look at the waiver wire line of the night. Skal Labissière of the Sacramento Kings. Huge night from Skal. Not only did he score 32 points, but he had 21 of those in the fourth quarter. He had 11 rebounds. He hit a 3. He had 2 steals. He was 11 of 15 from the field, and he was 9 of 11 from the line. I still cannot believe that Labissière fell as far as he did to pick 28. I was looking back at the mock draft that I did over on Basketball Monster before the NBA draft, and I had Skal going at pick 9 to the Raptors. Just baffling to me that he would fall as low as he did. We have seen it over the last couple of games, just how talented he can become. This is a huge performance, obviously. The game before that was fantastic. He had 4 blocks in only 20 minutes, but this is by far the best performance of Skal's career. So inevitably you're getting the questions, is Skal a must-own? Well, there's a couple of things to look at. First of all, yes, this was a big performance from Skal. It came with Marquise Chris guarding him, who's one of the worst defenders as a big man in the NBA. So there's that point of it. He torched him. The second thing is we haven't really seen these sort of minutes from Skal moving forward. The next thing we need to look at is that Anthony Tolliver was out resting. Now, people are going to be in and out of the Sacramento lineup resting for the rest of the season. I think that's pretty clear at this point. We're going to have Kufos and Tolliver probably alternating rests the rest of the way. So that's not too much of a factor. But the last game with Kufos out, we only saw 20 minutes of Skal. Probably the biggest factor here is that the Kings don't play for another 2 games. And then their next 2 contests are against the Thunder and the Spurs. Obviously, much harder matchups for front courts. Gasol, Aldridge, Dedmon, Cantor, Adams, Gibson. How's Skal going to handle those guys? I think it's a little bit different than Alan Williams and Marquise Chris. And he's not going to be able to score 21 points in a quarter. I think we can all say that that's fact. Now, I like what Scald's doing, and yeah, he can have some value, but if he's not playing for the next 2 days, I'm not sure that adding him now and missing out on 2 days worth of streaming is going to be the ideal scenario for him. I don't know what he's going to do in terms of playing minutes moving forward. Nothing seems to be reliable with Dave Yeager in terms of playing time. But he has been moving forward a little bit, but still, this is the first time that he's even really sniffed 30 minutes. His numbers have gone up from 14 to 20 to over 20 to 30 in the last 4 games, so it is a progression, but I think we should look at today's game as somewhat of an outlier just in terms of the ability to hit those shots, which he's not going to score at that level. Now, I do really like him, and I've got no problem with owning him as a general rule, but I think when we're looking at playoff scenarios and the fact that I think they've only got a 3-game week next week as well, which makes the addition of Labissiere probably not the most must-own situation that's out there. But this was a good game, clearly a good game, and there's a lot to watch for with him as we move forward and the way that this Kings team runs that rotation. But I think we're going to see at least 20 minutes for him, probably closer to 25 minutes on most nights for him locked in. But this sort of performance is a fantastic one that's unlikely to be repeated in this exact sort of format, of course. I think you're all aware of that. The young gun of the night, we don't move far because we go to his teammate, Willie Cauley-Stein, who almost had a 5x5. 14 and 11 with 5 assists, 4 steals and 4 blocks for Will. 6 of 11 from the field and 2 of 6 from the line. The defensive numbers really, really get it going there. And what we've seen over the last 4 games is Cauley-Stein's played at least 33 minutes. We can talk about guys moving around in value in Sacramento. I think Cauley-Stein's going to be fairly locked in at 30 plus for the rest of the way. Will he continue to provide defensive numbers in this sort of quantity? I don't think so. I don't think he's getting 8 steals and blocks per game. But I think you should be looking at over a steal and over a block per game. 14 or so points, maybe 15 points, 7 or 8 rebounds with double-double capabilities. So he should be owned in every situation to me ahead of Scull. I think his minutes are more secure, and I think his ability to do more in those defensive numbers are probably going to help a little. I think that Scull is a better player, and I think that's not true. I think that Scull will become a better player, but at this point, I would want Cauley-Stein over Labissiere. But you're in a 14-team league, you got to have both. In a 12, I would have Cauley-Stein. And there's obviously a lot to see here. He won't be as good as this every night, much like Scull, because he won't get to take on Phoenix each night. And the next 2 matchups are not easy. And they might go with a little bit more Costa Koufos in there to help, especially with foul trouble that might come the way of Cauley-Stein. So that's something to pay attention to. But his minutes, as I said, 42, 35, 36, and 33 in the last 4 games. He's gone 20 and 13, 13 and 5, and 18 and 7. But weirdly, in those 3 previous games, he had a combined 1 steal and 0 blocks before having 8 combined in this game. So you can see those things are a little bit up and down in terms of his level of production. But a huge night from Will Cauley-Stein. The dud of the night. This guy's had a few of these. Ryan Anderson, 0 points. 2 rebounds, 1 assist, missed all 5 of his shots, no steals, no blocks, and that's no surprise for Anderson. Yes, he did get whacked in the mouth by Julius Randle, but he was able to return. They didn't need him to play a huge amount of minutes in this game because it was a fairly significant smacking as the Rockets took down the Lakers. He only played 16 minutes, but it still was not a good performance. Now, he was coming in the last 2 games scoring 37 points with 10 triples. I don't think that Ryan Anderson is a must-own player. I think he's great for 3-point value, and he's not good for anything else. So you want 3s? Then that's fine. But generally, I think you're going to have to find more people. That's not more people. You're going to have to find someone else, or you can find, look, I would rather have Cauley-Stein over him. Absolutely, no doubt. If the schedule wasn't so bad for Sacramento coming up, I would probably look at Labissiere over Anderson, to be honest. But Anderson should not be considered a must-own player. All right, now before we head into looking at these games in more detail, a couple of questions have come in, so let's look at those. Joel Kalani says, is Scull worth picking up for Ilyasova or Jordan Crawford? I think for Ilyasova, yes, but again, it does come down to schedule, as I mentioned, Joel. In a vacuum, do I want Scull or Ilyasova? I want Scull. It's no brainer. The upside and the potential is way higher. But can you afford to have 2 games or 2 days where he doesn't play when you could actually use that? And even if it's not Ilyasova, maybe it's someone else off the wire that you add for Friday, or add for Thursday, or someone else off the wire that you add for Friday. You're getting those 2 games. Will that help you get through the week? Or are you that far in front in this week that it doesn't matter? And then when you get scaled back for Saturday, that it makes no difference. That's the sort of thing you got to look at. Jordan Crawford's providing points and threes. So if you don't need those and you want some rebounding stats and some defensive numbers, then scale will help. But again, the same question needs to be asked. Are you that far ahead that you can afford to not stream in for these next 2 days? Matt Shilson says, not a question, says, not falling in love with waiver wire ads this time of the year is important. Yeah, it is, Matt, but you do have to be aware that any sort of move you make, it can just be temporary for one game, because you should be moving those guys in and out of rotations and doing that. But sometimes chasing points or chasing production doesn't always go that correct way. What other questions have we got? Gagan Bra says, Austin Rivers worth a stream for tomorrow? Of course he is. Yep, there's no Blake Griffin. There's no DeAndre Jordan. Yes, absolutely he is worth a stream. And Augustin Garcia says, he's Bledsoe droppable with all the shutdown talk. I will talk about that later, Augustin. Just stay tuned and we will talk Eric Bledsoe coming up. All right, let's crack on now and let's start talking about these games in a little bit of extra detail. There are 10 of them for us to get through. The first one of those is Charlotte and Indiana. A pretty significant beating from the Pacers. They smacked the Hornets. So we saw the Hornets score just 77 points and some minutes were limited here. Now, Nick Batum, who missed the last game with a migraine, weird situation. They took him for a CT scan on his migraine. He'd never had a history of migraines before, and they went, well, something's not right here. Let's check it out. Thankfully, the CT scan came back negative. They don't know what's causing the migraines or why they're coming out of nowhere. But with him out of this game, we had Jeremy Lamb start again. He only played the 29 minutes, Jezza, but had 8 and 7. I still like that he got the minutes. The production wasn't there. He is a little bit up and down with what he can do. We've seen that across his career. But if Batum has to miss much more time, which I don't think he will, I don't think he'll miss too much more time, then Lamb is a guy to add, but for short-term value, he can be there. Frank Kaminsky got 31 minutes, had 20 points with 4 rebounds. This, to me, is not an indication that he becomes a must-own guy, because, as I said, this was a blowout-type situation, so the reserves did get extra run. We saw only 30 minutes from Kemba Walker, only 27 minutes from Cody Zeller. It's obviously more encouraging than what we had from Frank in his first game back, but to me, he's more a 14-team league guy, a streamer sort of an option. Cody Zeller had 7 and 4 in his 27 minutes, 3 steals and a block. Pretty good numbers there from Zeller, but I wouldn't be classifying him as a must-own at this point. Well, as I said, Walker wasn't a great night, just the 7 points in 30 minutes for Kemba, and Marvin Williams went back to being the good old Marvin Williams that we used to know and love. 4 and 6 in 34 with a steal and a block after those honestly bonkers sort of performances that he was putting in with grabbing 18 rebounds and all that sort of stuff. Interestingly, Briante Weber moved into the rotation again ahead of Brian Roberts and played 20 minutes, had 8 and 5 with 2 steals. He's always going to be a steals guy. So deeper leagues, Weber could be that player that plays 10 minutes a night and might even get you 1 steal a game, and that can be useful in those deeper formats. For the Pacers, Miles Turner couldn't keep his run of good scoring going after that performance against the Knicks. Just had the 6 points here in 37 minutes, 11 boards, 2 steals and 3 blocks. So really got it done defensively, but the offense has been lacking from him. Jeff Teague.
My name is Jeff.
8, 8, and 11 for Jeff in 30 minutes. Again, didn't need to really extend himself too much because it was just such an easy victory in the end. But his performance of late has not been ideal. Actually, his performance of late has been the sort of performance that we sort of predicted, I guess, at the start of the year, that he wouldn't be able to just touch the ball as much. One thing I wanted to touch on now, just Tom chiming in. A lot of people are asking about Bledsoe stuff, and they're saying, time is of the essence. I'll talk about it just quickly now. 2 reports came out. One guy from a Phoenix radio station said that Bledsoe is done for the season. He is shut down. The other reports came, and they were direct quotes from Earl Watson saying, they were not implicitly saying that, but he was saying that the decision for Bledsoe to rest in this game came from management. And he said, I think you veteran reporters around here know what that means for the rest of the season. So if I had to put anything on it, yes, Bledsoe is done for the year. I will talk about it more. Go grab Ulyss in every league. Even if Bledsoe isn't done for the year, he's going to rest a lot of games, it looks like, coming up. just go and grab Bueller. So that's your quick answer there, Tom. We'll talk about that situation in a bit more detail if you want that quick sort of information. All right, let's look at the rest of the Pacers now. Kevin Seraphin was the first big off the bench. Al Jefferson still not playing. I don't think we're going to see much more of Jefferson this season, and he's just not that good. Seraphin and Raheem Christmas are playing ahead of him. Monte Ellis had a good night. 16 points, two assists. He hit 2 triples and had 2 blocks. They're a little bit fluky, as is the 54% shooting for Monte. I wouldn't be getting too interested in him. I wouldn't be getting too overly excited. That's more a 14-team league type situation. While CJ Miles did his thing, and by his thing I mean he was terrible. 9 points in 18 minutes with a 3. He is as streaky as they come. He is as up and down as they come, and we've seen that from him through his career, basically. Great streamer, definitely not a hold. Let's move on to the next game now, Dallas and Washington. The Mavericks get the victory on the back of Nicolas Brasino. Of course they did. Why wouldn't they? 11-9 for Brasino in 23 minutes with 3 triples and 2 steals. He hit 4 of 5 shots for 80% shooting. He got the extra run with Wes Matthews out, and the fact that he couldn't miss. I wouldn't be reading anything really into this. The main thing that I read into this is the fact that Wes was out, and they still didn't go with Nerlens Noel as a starter. Now, Noel was back from his knee problem. That's obviously still bothering him, but I think we're going to be seeing limited role from Noel for the rest of the way here, and that means that in most cases, he's not going to remain a must-own player. Dorian Finney-Smith started in place of Wes and played 20 minutes and had 2 points with 8 boards. He has no value really in any scenario, even if Wes Matthews remains out. While Yogi Ferrell is dropping. 25 minutes for Yog, 9 points, 3 assists and 2 triples because JJ Barea is getting back. 20 minutes for Barea, just the 6 points, but 2 rebounds and 13 assists. That is a fantastic performance from JJ. Really going to be a good assists guy moving forward. And if he pushes those minutes up to 25 or 26, which might be a long shot, but I think we all have to acknowledge he's better than Yogi Ferrell, so he is going to cut into what Ferrell can do. If I have Ferrell, I'm dropping him for Ulis. I'm not adding Barea in 12-team leagues, but I'm keeping him as a name for if I need assists on a certain day. Hey, the Mavs are playing. Let's go get JJ. I'm not getting 13 pretty much every night. That's not happening, but I can get 4, 5 maybe, and that can be really useful. Dirk had 20 points in his 32 minutes while Seth Curry got back in business, 60% shooting for 19 points. He hit 3 triples and had 2 steals. But at the moment with Seth, if his shots aren't going in, he just does nothing else really. No rebounds and 1 assist. Yes, the steals can be nice from him, but he just doesn't do much in those other areas. While the Pencil had 22 and 9 in 40 minutes. I want to talk about the Wizards now. Johnny Wall had what looked like could be a serious injury. He sprained his foot. He went to the locker room. He did come back out and start the second half, but after the game, he said that it is still sore. So there's a little bit of doubt on John moving forward. He had 26 and 11 with 3 steals in 36 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if it swells up overnight if we hear that the injury becomes a little bit more severe, and that would make Brandon Jennings an elite add. Now, Jennings had just 3, 2, and 4 in 16 minutes, but if they're going to put Jennings out there for 32 minutes or so, then you want to go and add him. But I don't think, we know that this Wall injury is not a serious one. It's not going to be a long-term thing, but it is something to monitor for short-term adds. Bojan Bogdanovic, this is the Bojan that we saw when he first came over from Brooklyn. 24 minutes, 19 points on 5 shots. And again, with Bojan, it's always important to look, how did it happen? How did these numbers come about? Well, it came because he hit 80% of his shots. Shit that's just not happening again. That's not true because he's done it a few times, but it's not happening consistently. And he balances out 80% nights with 30% nights. And if you get on the right night and get him for 19 points with 3 threes, it looks great. And you go, man, what an ad, I'm the best. And then he has 10 points with 1 rebound. You go, what's the point of that? So that's why Bojan is a fine streamer. He's a fine GPP DFS type of guy, but he's not a guy that you just lock in and go bang. In 24 minutes a night, Bojan's giving me top 80 value. I just don't think that he is that guy. Otto Porter had 14, 10, and 5 in a solid performance, while Bradley Beal had 24, 2, and 5 in his 38 minutes. Marcin Gortat, not a great night from Gortat, just the 25 minutes, 8 and 10. He should be considered droppable in 10-team leagues and probably in 12-team leagues as Jan Mahinmi continues to eat into his playing time, as does Jason Smith, as does Markieff Morris. Mahinmi had 6 and 5 in 19 minutes, and he is just a deeper league guy. While it wasn't a great Markieff night, 5 and 7 in 32 minutes, but I'm not too panicky about him. Let's move on to New Orleans and the Miami Heat. Tone Davis, 28 and 27 and 8, with 3 steals and 3 blocks. It wasn't the most efficient night, and by that I meant it was pretty inefficient. 41% from the field and 72% from the line, but otherwise a pretty good night. While Boogie Cousins got himself another tech foul. That's not a suspension, but it means he is one away from another suspension. So the next tech that Boogie gets will cause him to miss a game. He had 19 and 9 with 2 steals in 30 minutes and got himself into pretty early foul trouble, so that limited his playing time. Drew Holiday stunk again, 11, well not stunk, but wasn't great, 11, 4 and 8 in 32 minutes, and for some reason, since Cousins has been around, he can't hit shots. I don't know what it is, I don't know if it's a confidence thing, I don't know if it's an uncomfortableness with new play style, whatever it is, he can't hit shots. He's still getting his assists, he's still getting his shot attempts, they're just not going in. It's a pretty weird situation. Wayne Selden started again, and he had 3 points, so that's cool. While Jordan Crawford had double digits in scoring for the 5th consecutive game. 10 points in 21 minutes for Geordie. He hit 2 triples, he had 4 boards, he had 3 assists. Some pretty good numbers there from Crawford. He's probably like a Bojan Bogdanovic light, like just a 50% version. But that can be useful on nights where maybe on a night like this, where maybe there weren't many guys available, you needed some points and threes. And Jordan is going to do that. He's not going to do much else, but he's definitely going to help in that area. Etuan Moore got hot, had 18 points on 12 shots and did nothing else. He is just a deeper league sort of a player. Onto the Heat, Hassan Whiteside. Whiteside shooting 77% from the free throw line over the last month. So we did a lot of hand-wringing earlier on in the season about his free throws, and for some reason, he's fixed them again. Just a weird phenomenon. 20 and 17 with a steal and 2 blocks, and he is really coming home strongly. Much like Paul George, after a lot of early season disappointment, he's starting to live up to the billing. Goran Dragic returned from his eye problem, 33, 5 and 2. He hit 5 triples, he had a steal and a block, and he shot at 61%. That's always one of the biggest draws of Goran, is his ability to finish at a high percentage. Speaking of finishing at a high percentage, Dion Waiters, that's the guy. He had 14 points in 29 minutes on 33% shooting. This is the Dion Waiters that we remember from his many stops in Cleveland and Oklahoma City. This is the guy that I worry about. These are the minutes that I worry about, just the 29 here with Dragic back, and that is what I have continued to say about Waiters. Fine, the numbers are great, but when you get to your playoffs, I just get the feeling he's going to continue to hurt. And this wasn't a great performance from him. Still should be owned, but just watch what happens. Jimmy Johnson wasn't a great night, 10, 4 and 4 in 25, while Tyler Johnson got back in business. 10, 3 and 9 with 3 steals. Not a must-own player, but definitely a good streaming option for your assists and steals. While Wayne Ellington, one of the best 3-point streamers out there, another 5 triples in 22 minutes. He hits threes in such a huge volume. He does nothing else in such a minuscule volume, but he hits threes. And that's what we're looking at this point of view. We're trying to find people to hit these threes. Now, just speaking of Ellington, we've got Juz Mitchell that says, do you want Ellington or Crawford? I assume that's... Actually, I won't assume. I don't know if you're talking about Jordan or Jamal Crawford in a 12-team Roto League. In a 12-team Roto League, none of those guys should be owned. In Roto, you're going to have your 10 active spots, your 3 bench spots. None of them are top 100 or top 120 players. So I can't see why any of them would be players that you would put into your top 10. And if you have got a spot in your best 10 players for one of those, it seems pretty likely to me you're not going to be competing for a top 5 spot. But I could be wrong there, Juz. Your league might be deeper than normal. None of those guys, Ellington or Crawford, provide really anything outside of points and threes. They're very, very similar. I think that I would look at Crawford a little bit more just because the Pelicans really need what he brings, whereas the Heat have so many other guards, and Ellington can go from 26 to 16 minutes on a nightly basis. But realistically, I can't see any of them being 12-team league players on a regular basis. Joshy Richardson, just the 16 minutes, 8, 2 and 2. If you haven't dropped him, please do that. Minnesota and Boston. The Minnesota offense was, of course, led by Ricky Rubio, who scored a team-high 23 points. What a weird situation this is for Rubio. Apparently can't miss anymore. 57% from the field, 60% from 3. He hit 3 triples. He had 7 assists and continues to be just sensational at this point of the year. Karl Anthony Towns, 17 and 14. Wasn't his best night. Well, Wigo had a very inefficient 21 points. Yes, 21 points is nice. 39% from the field, 1 of 4 from the line, no steals, no blocks, 4 boards, 4 assists. Just continues to be a frustrating player. Of course, you still own him, but frustrating. Now, Nemanja Bjelica suffered an ankle problem. it looks like he's going to miss time. He was in a walking boot. He's going to have an MRI, be stunned if he didn't miss any time. And Lance Stevenson also hurt his ankle in what looked like a pretty severe situation. I can't see either of those guys playing in the near... Well, Stevenson barely had played anyway. But Bielitsa was a guy who was getting close to 30 minutes on a lot of these nights. And I don't think that's going to be the case. With him out, Shabazz Muhammad played 31. He had 21 points and 3 triples. So he is going to be a very interesting add if you're needing points. He does nothing else. He offensive rebounds pretty well, but he does nothing else. So he's going to be a solid option. Look, he could average 18 points a game down the stretch if he's forced into 30 minutes a night because of a Bielitsa injury. He could easily do that. He could do it with like 3 rebounds, no assists, no steals, no blocks. He could also do it with high efficiency. So 16-team leagues, yeah, you definitely want to be paying attention to Shabazz. 14s, of course. 12s, maybe. We'll wait and see. But this is an interesting view to the future of what he can do, and it's a very representative sort of figure. 21 points on 50% shooting and just 3 boards and an assist and nothing else, and that's sort of what you should expect from him. Not to that volume, but that sort of shape of a fantasy line. For the Celtics, Al Horford's been a struggle for a big stretch of time, but this was a great night. 20 points, 9 boards, 8 assists and 2 blocks, really starting to repay his owner's faith there, while Isaiah Thomas had 27, 3 and 4 with 4 triples, and Avery Bradley played 32 minutes and had 18, 3 and 4. He hit 4 triples as well there, Braddles, on 58% shooting. So some pretty good performances from the key Celtics players there. Now with Bradley back and having no minutes restriction anymore, that's really going to impact what Marcus Smart can do. Now I like Smart a lot, but the fact that he played just the 26 minutes here, it had 10, 2 and 6. That's not making him a must-own guy, those sort of limited minutes. My boy Kelly Olynyk went from 31 minutes down to 13, because of course he did. He only hit 75% of his shots in this game, so I guess it's justified. 10, 1 and 3 in 13 minutes for Kelly. While Jay Crowder continues to stink. 7, 4 and 0, 28 minutes. If you need to, you can cut Jay Crowder. It's not going to be for everyone, but we're talking about a situation where we've got 4 days left in the week. We're halfway through. If you just go, you know what, shit, I am in a hole here. I just need to get games in as much as possible. Crowder's been terrible. I don't think really anyone could deny how poor he's been. So I don't actually think that Jay Crowder is all that good, and I've said that plenty of times. So I look at it as maybe he's actually getting back to who he is. Probably not to this extreme, but I wouldn't be married to just holding on to him. Let's head across to the next game. Utah and Detroit. Gordie Hayward, 25, 9 and 6 with 4 triples, 53% shooting from Gord. Another big night there. While Joe Johnson started in place of Derek Favors, replaced Boris Diaw there. 29 minutes for Joe, 12 and 5 with 3 steals, a block and 2 triples. While Favors is out, Johnson's going to have 14 team league value and streamable value in 12s and shallower. 12, 9 and 5 for Gobert with 4 blocks, a good night there. While Rocket Rodney Hood, knee soreness again. He is missing time. He will not play on Friday. That's not official, but not Friday, on Thursday. He will not play Thursday from what I understand. That's not official, but I'll be stunned if he played. So that makes Jinglin Joe Ingles an interesting guy to look at. 12, 3 and 4 for Ingles. He hit 4 triples. He had a steal. You want some threes. You want some assists. You want some steals. And for a guy who's probably going to play 30 plus minutes, 6 games on Thursday, going out Ingles. One of the premier stream options for Thursday, I believe. Dante Exum got some extra time with 7, 3 and 4 in his 23 minutes, while Georgie Hill had 17, 4 and 2. As for Diaw, back to a bench role, 19 minutes, 7, 2 and 3, and he's not having any appeal no matter what happens. Now, Stan Van Gundy's a good coach. I like Stan Van Gundy. I like hearing him talk. I like all that stuff. But this Pistons team is a shambles. And he did something today that bothers me immensely. And I've talked about it a lot on this show. I'm not going to harp on it too much, but he changed his starting lineup because, and the reason was he put John Lua, the tackle box, he put him back in to start at power forward over Tobias Harris because he wanted to do it to match up against Boris Diaw. Turns out the Jazz didn't start Boris Diaw, and the Pistons went out with the tackle box out there anyway. Why, when you're... Okay, the Jazz are better than you, fine. Why don't you just go with what's actually working for you? And for a start, why does John Lua match up so much better against Boris Diaw than Tobias Harris? Why is that a case to begin with? And secondly, Why do you need to change anything about what you do because of Boris Diaw? Why do you have to go, all right, there's Gordon Hayward, there's George Hill, there's Rudy Gobert. Man, what? Boris Diaw? Shit, scrap everything. New game plan, Boris Diaw is starting. Why would you change anything because Boris Diaw is starting? And then it blew up in his face and the tackle box was shit, as he's been for a big stretch of time, and he should not be playing over Toby Harris. He played 30 minutes and had 7 and 5. Harris played 30 and had 12 and 4. It should be a 33-26 sort of split, if not more. Harris will be back starting in the next game, but that sort of decision making, especially to match up against Boris Diaw of all people, doesn't make much sense to me. Andre Drummond was very, very poor in this game. 6 and 5 in 20 minutes, and he was outplayed by Aaron Baines, and even saw Boban Marjanovic come in at the end of the game over him. Bainesy had 12 and 12 with a block, while Marjanovic had 2 and 2 with a steal and a block in his 5 minutes. Not much you can do with Drummond. I think he's got to keep holding, but it wasn't a great night for him. A player that you don't have to hold, Marcus Morris, you probably shouldn't be owning him anyway. He had 8 points in 33, but the other guy is Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. This is about the 5th stinker in his last 6 games. 10 points in 29 minutes. No other contributions, really. Oh, that's not true. He had 2 threes. He had a steal, but 33%. He can't hit anything. Yeah, he'll have a game where he has 35 points and hits 8 threes, and you go, man, KCP. And then he does nothing in the other games. At this point, move on. This was not a good Reggie Jackson game. 20 minutes from him, 8, 2 and 2, while Ish had 16, 3 and 3 in 28 minutes. This doesn't mean that Reggie is losing his starting job. This doesn't mean that this is going to be the way that these minutes roll from game to game. But as I said, I think on yesterday's show, 1 in every 4 games, you're going to get this sort of thing happen between these two players. My voice is cracking up, so I'm going to have a quick drink. Sorry, just a very scratchy voice today. All right, let's go on to the next game. Memphis and Chicago. Mick Conley, 27, 9 and 7, 5 triples and a steal. Super efficient from Conley. Marc Gasol, 27, 6 and 7 with 3 triples. Another good night from Gasol. The rest of the team, yeah, there's not a lot to love there. They're pretty lucky they were playing the Bulls to get this victory. JaMychal Green had 4 and 7 in 23 minutes. He offers nothing for fantasy leagues. Vince Carter started and had 7 points in 29 minutes. Unsurprisingly, he couldn't go 8 from 8 again. Started off, I think, hit his first shot, but couldn't keep that up. Even in 30 minutes a night, he's not going to be a guy that you need to add in 10s or 12s or maybe even 14 team leagues, but he can be a streamer for 3-pointers. Tone Allen had 10, 6 and 3, steal specialist, and that's about it, while Zach Randolph had 8 and 9 in 25 minutes. Rebound specialist. These are not 12-team league guys. The only must-own players in this team are Conley and Gasol. That is it. Everybody else, there's just a bunch of crapness with them associated with them, basically. On to the Bulls. I happily admit when I'm wrong on things. I do it all the time. No one's 100% right all the time. I was right earlier on this season when I said that Rajon Rondo was terrible. But he's been fantastic the last 2 games. Like, really, really good. Looking like pre-ACL Rondo in these last 2 games. Now, it's a 2-game sample size. He hit 3 threes in this game, 3 threes in the last game. He went 17, 6 and 8 with 2 steals in 35 minutes. I can't fault anything that Rondo did. His defense was more locked in. His movement of the ball was fantastic. He wasn't assist hunting. He should be owned in every league until something goes wrong. But for now, he should be owned. And you're really huge praise for Rondo. Fantastic stuff that he's doing. Now, I still can't understand anything that Fred Hoiberg does to take Jaren Grant from starter to not only DMP, CD, but to 4th string point guard is ludicrous. Grant is the guy that you should be trying to work in with these players, and I still don't believe in the Rondo-Wade-Butler combination. I would like to see Grant continue to play, and he was shooting 40% from 3. That's something this team needs. But I can't deny what Rondo's done. Nikola Mirotic, 28 minutes, 14, 5 and 2, 3 triples and 2 blocks. He only shot 30%, but as I've said a million times, he doesn't actually need to shoot high percentages to be an effective fantasy player, and he's got to be used in the correct way, which he has been the last 2 games. Hoiberg said, we might consider starting him. Like, no shit, you should have started him from game 1, and that would actually unlock a lot of potential for this team. He should be owned in leagues as well. There's never going to be consistency, or no, that's not true. There's never going to be trust in what Hoiberg's going to do, but that's 2 straight strong games from both Mirotic and Hoiberg in terms of using him, so I'm on board. I love what Mirotic can do. Dwayne Wade suffered an elbow injury, and it didn't sound great. He said he heard a couple of pops in his elbow. I wouldn't be stunned if we don't see Wade again this season. He had 8, 3, and 4 in 23 minutes, and what I think that's going to do is it's going to open it up for Denzel Valentine. He had 11, 7, and 3 with 3 triples in 28 minutes. I talked about this a lot yesterday or the day before about how the Valentine, Mirotic, Butler combos are the Bulls' best two-man combinations. Combinations of those three guys are the Bulls' best two-man combos. Valentine's got a very fantasy-friendly game. If he's getting 30 a night, he will be a 12-team league guy in most situations, in most occasions. Just look at what he did tonight. 11, 7, and 3, a steal and 3 triples in 28 minutes. That's very good. He plays 31 or 32, which I think they should be looking to do to develop him and see how he fits with Butler and with Rondo and with Mir and with all these guys. I'm really interested to see what happens with Denzel moving forward. Robin Lopez is not a 12er, 8 and 3 in 24, while Bob Portis 8 and 7 in 20 minutes. He's just not good. And Hoiberg makes the move at the end of a quarter. We've got to put Bob Portis in for a defensive substitution. Do you realize he's your worst defensive player? Obviously not. Paul Zipser back into the rotation. He played 6 minutes with Dwayne Wade out, but I don't think there's much to see there. Well, Jim Butler, the March swoon continues. 14 and 7 on 25% shooting. 40 minutes with 2 blocks. You can't do anything if you own Jim at the moment. You just got to suck it and hope that he comes good. But at the moment, this is a pretty consistent theme for Jim, as I've touched on before. His marches are terrible, and we're right in the middle of one of those at the moment, and it doesn't look... It doesn't look great for Jim. Let's hope that he can turn that around. Let's talk Lakers in Houston. I will never understand what is happening with the Lakers and their rotation. Once again, another change to the starting lineup. Nick Young back in the starting lineup. Why would you bring Nick Young back after 2 games of not playing him at all? Keep Jordan Clarkson as your starting point guard and bring Nick Young in to be the shooting guard. I understand you want to see if Jordan Clarkson can be your point guard. He can't. He's not a point guard. He's a shooting guard. And you're not happy with the way that Russell and Clarkson work together, how about you try them together? How about you try them together as a starting pair and let's see how they can actually work together? Because we haven't seen it yet. You can put David Nwaba and you can put Uncle P in. You can put whoever you want in. Try it with Clarkson. These moves have really soured me on what Luke Walton has done. It doesn't make any sense in terms of developing anybody. You are ruining D'Angelo Russell, and Russell takes blame himself because he has been terrible. Yeah, definitely been terrible. He only had 5 points in 25 minutes. He fouled out in that time. He had more turnovers than points, more fouls than points. 2 of 10 shooting. He did have 2 steals and 2 assists, but this is something that I do talk about a lot, about in giving players consistency and confidence in role and all that sort of stuff, and he doesn't have it, and he hasn't had it for 2 years. He has been screwed for 2 years by this organization and coaching decisions, and I'm sure of it, some of it is his fault. I've got no doubt about that, but you're also penalizing yourself. You're penalizing yourself as a team, as a coach, for penalizing the fan base. Work with him. Don't work against him. At this point, I'm still holding D'Angelo because I do think that he will come back into the starting lineup. Because this isn't working with Jordan Clarkson. Jordan Clarkson is not a point guard. He's not a starting point guard in any NBA. Now, Clarkson had a good night. 18, 2, and 3 with 2 steals, but he's not a point guard. He should be owned everywhere, obviously. Larry Nance, only 8 minutes. He'd been a good 20-minute guy, getting some good defensive numbers. Only had the 1 steal here. He's not really a 12-team league guy. And the major question I got from the Lakers is, what is going on with Ivica Zubac? I'll tell you what happened. He got 2 fouls in about the first 2 minutes. He ended up with 4 fouls in 11 minutes of play, and they were getting smashed, and he was getting played off the court. As simple as that. The fouls really limited him. I'm not too bothered by it. I still think that he's going to have 12-team value moving forward. I still would prefer to have him over Skal Labissière, to be honest. I think he can be a little bit more consistent in what he does, but I can understand going the other way. I still really like Zubac. This was just not a great spot for him in terms of the fouls. It was a good spot in terms of matchup. I thought he could do well against Houston, but the fouls really got him in trouble. And when something like that happens and then they put Julius Randle at center, and they just ran with that more. Now, Randle had 32 points and 8 rebounds. It was good Randle night. It came on 77% shooting, so clearly that's not sustainable, but it was good to see him get a career high. The other guy we need to touch on is Brandon Ingram. I've been fairly critical of Brandon Ingram. I said, I don't believe he can shoot until I see he can shoot. All right, he shot at 52% over the last 2 weeks. He had 18, 6, and 3 with 2 triples and a steal. He looks a completely different player. I have no problem with him being owned in 12-team leagues now. I think he probably should be investigated in most of your leagues to see whether he's actually going to fit what you do. I like what's happening. His minutes aren't going anywhere. They don't screw with his development at all. It's only Russell. So that's why I say that some of it has to be on Russell, but I also think that the Lakers are not handling it well, and that would be pretty much Lakery. It's always great when Corey Brewer plays 22 minutes as well. There is absolutely no need for that whatsoever. Speaking of, I did speak of him, I'll do it again. Nick Young, he had 0 points in 24 minutes, 0 of 9 from the field. I'm not sure we see Nick Young on the court again this year. For the Rockets, they had this one under control. Jim Harden, 18, 12, and 13 with another triple-double. And Lou Williams really got going. 32 minutes for Lou, 30 points, 7 triples, 7 assists, 2 steals, and a block. A fantastic night. It came on 65% shooting, so there's a couple of things here. A, he's not going to take these shots every game. We know that. He's not taking 17 shots, the most on the team. He's not playing 32 minutes, the most on the team. And he's also not hitting those shots at 65%. That's great. He had been putrid for a couple of weeks, shooting at like 25%. So there was the natural ebb and flow of shooting percentages. He's fine to own, but don't look at this and go, it's a re-emergence. Trev Ariza, 23 and 2, 4 steals and 4 triples. He had a good night on some very high shooting as well. While Clint Capella copped an elbow in the head from Randall. He had 15 and 10 in 21. I just want to see 30 minutes of Clint Capella. Is that so hard to get? It appears to be. I just would really... I would really like to see that happen on a more regular basis. Eric Gordon had 10 in his 30 minutes. Pat Bev limited to just the 27 because they didn't need him. No, nothing actually wrong with him, thankfully. The Portland Trailblazers and the San Antonio Spurs, huge win for the Blazers here to keep themselves in the hunt for the 8th seed. Lillard had 36, 3 and 4 with 2 steals and did it on 55% shooting. Great stuff. While CJ McCollum had 26, 4 and 4. Big nights from their big guys. Yusuf Nurkic bounced back with 16, 9 and 3 and had 4 steals. It wasn't an efficient night, hurting you in both free throws and field goal percentage, which he is prone to doing, but the other numbers are pretty impressive. While Alan Crabb played 35 minutes and scored 10 points. He is maybe a streamer in 14-team leagues. Great game from Noah Vonleh as well. Got to give him credit because I've crapped on him a lot. It came on 12 points on perfect 4 of 4 shooting, so there's a lot of flukiness there. He got 26 minutes, had 6 boards and 3 assists. I don't buy it. He has looked more impressive this season than what he did in the first 2 years in the NBA, no doubt about that, but he is still not a player who should be starting the majority of games. Mo Harkless, get rid of him. 3 points in 19 minutes. Evan Turner's back next game. Forget about Mo, he's done. Well, Al-Farouq Aminu, 2 and 8 in 31 minutes. Probably can move on from him in most situations as well. The Spurs, Kawhi was amazing. 34, 9 and 6, 3 steals, 2 blocks, 4 triples. What more can you say? Great to see LaMarcus Aldridge back as well. 19, 7 and 4. Go and add him if he is available. He is a must-own player now. 32 minutes for Aldridge after suffering that heart scare. It wasn't an efficient night, but he's back, and that's all that really matters at this point. No Tone Parker, no DeJounte Murray, so Pat Mills played 37. He had 13, 3 and 6, and he's a great streamer for as long as Parker remains out, while Dave Lee went back to the bench and had 12 and 5 in 19 minutes, and Dwayne Dedman stuck in that 20-minute role, 4 and 5 for Deaders, just a 16 to 18 team league sort of a player. Pau Gasol hit another 2 triples, had 12 and 5, and only played 19 minutes in this game, but that's still productive. I think that Pau still should be owned in all 12-teamers. And Manu, a great assist stream. 6 assists with Tone Parker and DeJounte Murray out. He's going to handle the ball a lot. He played 20 minutes and had 7, 1 and 6. That can be useful to almost anybody. So don't overlook Manu. Don't look at him and go, yeah, but he plays 20 minutes a game. That's fine, but you shouldn't care if he gets you 6 assists. They don't look at it and go, well, he had 20 minutes and 6 assists and everyone else played 30 minutes, so we're going to scale it down. It's still 6 assists. Yeah, his ceiling might not be great, but his ability to get assists is probably going to be higher than anybody else that's out there on the waiver wire. So you need to take that into consideration. Let's move on to the next game, and there's a lot to talk about with Sacramento and Phoenix. I've probably spoken about a lot of Sacramento stuff, but there is going to be shit happening with this team all year. We saw last game that we had Tyreek, Aaron Aflalo, Ty Lawson, and Costa Koufos all out resting in this game, and Darren Collison and Anthony Tolliver. And the thing is, especially if you're, most importantly, if you're playing DFS, they give no indication of this until about an hour before the games, and they are the West Coast team, so they're after lock, so you never know what's going to happen. So using any of these guys, with the exception of probably Cauley Stein, is a pretty big risk. Even Bud Hield, who played 30 minutes consecutive for about 3 games, only played 21 minutes here. Dave Yeager continues to shuffle things on a nightly basis. So they moved Aaron Aflalo back into the starting lineup. Ty Lawson started with Collison out. It's really hard to get a read on any of these things. If Collison's going to continue resting, and you have to think that that will happen, then he's not a guy to own. Ty Lawson's not a guy to own. Bud Hield probably isn't, more of a streaming guy. Tyreek came back and went scoreless in 14 minutes. Like, I don't think there's any reason to hold on to Tyreek Evans in 12-team leagues. Costa Koufos had 13 and 6, but he played 20 minutes, and he's going to be the guy that loses time if Scal's going to get more playing time. So Willie's the guy to own. Scal maybe, but the rest of these guys, not really at all. Just constant change every single game for the Kings, and that's going to be the way that it goes from here until the rest of the season. So many teams packing it in early this year, and that takes me on to the Phoenix Suns. Now, I've been pretty adamant about teams that don't shut down players early for no reason. Sure, people get injured and they're done. Joel Embiid, shut down. Ben Simmons, shut down. They're injured. I hate the word shut down, but I'm going to use it. They're injured. Fine. Tim Mozgov, he's shut down for the season. It doesn't matter because he's not a good player. He wasn't their best player. He's not in their best 7-8 players. It doesn't matter. Luol Deng, the same. Like it doesn't matter. What happened with Phoenix today was a very, very interesting situation and a very curious situation. We get word a couple of minutes before the game is ready to tip off that Tyler Ulis will start and Eric Bledsoe won't. And that's all we hear. And then the reports come out that Bledsoe is dressed, he participated in pre-game warm-ups, and he's available to play. He just will come off the bench. Yeah, okay. And my initial read on that was, all right, they've seen the Kings have gone without Collison, and they're starting Ty Lawson. That's a matchup that Tyler Ulis can take on. We saw him play big minutes against Boston on Isaiah Thomas. Again, a guard that he can look eye to eye. Ty Lawson, similar. Does this give... Hey, this is an opportunity. We can give Tyler some extra minutes here against a guard who's his own height, pretty much, and not have him physically overwhelmed and see what he can do. Understand that thinking. The weird thing to me is the fact that they let Bledsoe go and warm up, went through all the warm-ups, did all that, and then 2 minutes before, nah man, sorry, you're not playing and you're going to sit on the bench in your clothes. So I thought, okay, it's a one-off thing, all right? Apparently not. Now, as I said earlier, a couple of conflicting reports. Jeff Singh just asked, Cauley Stein or Zubats the rest of the season? Cauley Stein. Couple of conflicting reports. One says Bledsoe shut down for the rest of the season. Okay, that was unambiguous, that report. Eric Bledsoe is shut down for the rest of the season. Okay, the other one was quotes from Earl Watson, not saying that, just saying that it was a management decision. If it was a coaching decision, Bledsoe would be out there. But the way that Watson phrased it, he said things like, he has had a good season. Not he is having a good season. He had a good season is what he said. And that makes you think, okay, he's done. The fact that we're talking about all right, so actually now that I'm looking at this, there's a quote here. Eric Bledsoe has tweeted something out, so I am just going to open that while we're recording and see exactly what that says. The quote that Watson was saying, that he's out there, and he goes, you veteran reporters, you know that you guys know what this means. I would say that Bledsoe is out for the year. Now, Bledsoe's tweet that I brought up, it's just a emoji of a sad-looking, frustrated face. That's what it is. All right, I would say that he's done for the year. So that's the concern with it. With Bledsoe. Back to what I was talking about before. Sorry, this Bledsoe tweet. Yeah, breaking news as we're going. It's thrown me off. When we look at this, and I say, players don't get shut down when they're healthy. It happened last year on the 10th of April, I believe it was, or the 5th of April, for the last 5 games of the year. This is unprecedented to me. You've got a month to go of the season, and they're telling their best player, mate, just don't play for the rest of the year. Apparently, in this game, they asked Brandon Knight, "Can you play?" He said, "Nah, man, sorry, back spasms." Bledsoe, by that tweet, probably not happy. Coming from management, the weird thing is the timing of this decision. Now, Phoenix's management and ownership doesn't necessarily have the best track record. I can't ever think of the best player on a team just being told, "Don't play," when there's a month to go. And that's when I always talk about, guys just don't get shut down without injuries. It's because they don't, and because it hasn't happened until now. So I'm obviously going to have to retire that phrase from my lexicon. This is a weird situation though with Bledsoe. It's a weird spot to sit your best player out, especially if he's not fully on board with it for the rest of the year. There's a chance that he continues to play, but if he does, he's going to be in a very limited role. Or by limited, I mean he won't play every night. He'll be in some games, out some games. Ulis should be owned in all games. He played in all leagues. He played 39 minutes here. That's probably a little high. I don't think he's going to necessarily play 39 minutes moving forward. But he is a guy that you're probably going to see 32 to 33 minutes out of in most nights. And that's going to make him an ownable player or a must-own player. We're going to see, with Bledsoe not playing for the rest of the year, which is what we're assuming, you're going to see a lot of things change. You're going to see Devin Booker's efficiency decrease and his shot attempts increase. So his value in field goal percentage is going to take a massive tumble. TJ Warren will take more field goal attempts. Tyler Ulis will take more field goal attempts, and he will also get more assist opportunities. So you're going to see bigger assist numbers out of Tyler Ulis. You're going to see plenty of times where he goes for double-doubles with assists, I think, for Ulis coming down here. Just a very weird situation. And to me, it bums me out, this situation with Bledsoe, because, okay, we get to April. I always say don't play fantasy in April because weird shit goes down and teams are tanking. But we're a month out from the end of the season. And these blatant moves to just tell your best player not to play is a really bad look for the league. And I have no issue with tanking, no issue with what the Sixers did. They played their best players. They didn't have good players, but they played them. And they didn't actively tank individual games as such. They played their asses off, they tried things out, they got rotated free agency, but they didn't go with rotations that didn't make sense at the time. They played their best players the most minutes that they could. And this is not a good look to me, to just, again, to tell your best player who's not injured, but mate, you're just done for the year, is a weird phenomenon. I'd like to hear other people's thoughts on that and what you guys think about it. You might have to drop Bledsoe, and in a lot of cases I would. And that's a real pain in the ass. Again, this is just way too early for this shit to be happening. And it's completely frustrating, and I understand that. Ulis, you grab. Warren, you grab, obviously, if he is around. You get a guy. Look, now, the other thing is what does Brandon Knight do now? Do they just bring him back into the rotation after just not playing him at all post All-Star? Is he back in the rotation? Do we see Ronnie Price get all the backup minutes? Does Leandro Barbosa get them? Is Knight going to refuse to play? And that's the risk you run. Yeah, Knight is pissed. He has been minimised. Now, he hasn't been good this year. I understand that. But he has been minimised, and he is not happy with it. And that's the risk you run. You'd want Bledsoe to be 100% on board with this, and it doesn't appear that he necessarily is. It's a weird situation. So let's see how it goes. I don't know what the solution is. Maybe you have an unweighted lottery, and then it's like, cool. Then the only issue there is. Teams that are fighting for the 8 seed might not want the 8 seed, but their financial incentive to do that is probably much higher than the odds of getting that number 1 pick, which would be less than 10%. Maybe that's what you do. Just to recap, Bledsoe, it appears he is going to be out for the season. Ulis is a must grab. James Coleman chimes in. Josh, I'm sorry to interrupt. You're not interrupting, you're just asking a question. When does Basketball Monster update their projections for tomorrow's slate? They're all updated. They're updated now. They're all done, James. So if you want to go and look at it now, obviously when the news comes out in the morning and the afternoon, then things will change. But everything is updated as per tomorrow, or for tomorrow. All projections are updated for tomorrow. So yeah, that is it's a frustrating situation, but I'd like to know other people's thoughts on it. TJ Warren was big, 24-9, 2 blocks. Marquise Chris was fantastic, 17-2-2, 2 steals, 5 blocks, 2 triples. Still appears to be one of the most lost players on the court when he's out there. 32 minutes is great, but we haven't really seen him get that sort of playing time much moving forward. I think he's still someone you want to own. Alan Williams played 31 minutes. More minutes for Williams in a game with Alex Len than what he'd done when Alex Len was out. 14 and 11 with 2 blocks. You know he's going to be a good source of rebounds. Alex Len had 6 and 8 in his 17 minutes. He is just a deeper league sort of a player. Derek Jones hurt himself, hip contusion. He lasted 3 minutes while Leandro Barbosa lasted 10 before being ill. And Devin Booker, I talked about his percentages, 26 shots, 23%. That is a massive, massive dip there, and that is going to hurt you. If you're not punting field goal percentage, I'm not saying you drop Booker, but he is going to hurt you moving forward without anyone else really losing Bledsoe. That's going to hurt what Booker... He'll take more shots, but it's going to be more harmful to you in that field goal percentage category. All right, let's move on to the next one now. Milwaukee and the Los Angeles Clippers. Big win for the Bucks on the road. Fantastic for me because I don't want the Bulls to make the playoffs. I think they get them into the lottery. Middleton, 16 and 7 with 2 steals in 32 minutes. Now, the standard Jason Kidd happened. All right, Malcolm Brogdon, you're back starting and playing less minutes than Matthew Dellavedova. It just appears that whoever his backup point guard is will play more minutes. So, in effect, is a promotion a demotion? That's what it feels like, that every time they make a change in the starting point guard, it's to give the backup more minutes, or the newly becoming backup more minutes. Brogdon played 26 and had 11, 2, and 5. Daly played 32 and had 12, 2, and 3. Brogdon's still the guy I want to own, and I don't know if this will be what happens with the minutes moving forward, but it's a frustrating development. Greggy Monroe, 27 minutes, 12, 6, and 4, while John Henson, the minutes continue to fade as we figure out for the 17th time that he is not good. 5 and 7 in 13 minutes for Henson, while Thonmaker started and played 7 minutes in one of the more useless scenarios. This was a great win for the Bucks in that Giannis only played 28 minutes as he was bothered with foul trouble. 16, 5, and 5 with a block in 28 minutes for Yanni. Onto the Clippers, DeAndre Jordan, 22 and 17 with 2 blocks. He is not playing on Thursday. He is resting. Blake Griffin had 18, 7, and 4 in 37 minutes. He is not playing on Thursday. He is resting. So be aware that those two guys will not play Thursday. Chrissy Paul struggled. We've seen a lot of point guards struggle against the Bucks, but probably not to this sort of a degree. We had Paul at 6 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists. JJ Redick scored 16, and Jamal Crawford got some extra run, having 14 points with 31 minutes. Guys like Rivers and Crawford and Redick, Mo Spates are going to be really interesting players to add tomorrow because of DeAndre Jordan being out and Blake Griffin being out. We're going to get more minutes for these guys and a lot more usage, more rebounding opportunities. Definitely a lot of extra things can happen with those Clippers players tomorrow. So that's going to open up a lot of your streaming options tomorrow. So just be aware of that. All right, now a tweet has come through now. Confirmed the Suns are shutting down Bledsoe for the season. He's been playing through knee soreness apparently. So knee soreness. He has been shut down for the season. So there is your news that comes from Doug Haller that confirming that Bledsoe has been shut down for the season. I might just give that a bit of a tweet out on Basketball Monster. So just you guys watching live, just hold on for a sec while I get that news out. Sorry about this, guys. Talk amongst yourselves while I fix this up. All right, that is done. Sorry about that delay for you guys watching the video. Just had to get that information out there. So that is now confirmed that that Eric Bledsoe is out for the rest of the season. So everything I said there was spot on. So he is done. All right, I'm going to probably should have just taken the break then and then gone and tweeted that out. We are actually, let's, Tom says confirm that Josh is adding Eulis right now. Tom, I already looked into that, mate. I already sorted that. Actually, before we move on to the break, let's answer some of these questions that came through. Where are we? Lamb Win says, I can't quite get a grasp on the Suns front court. Cool. Len, Chris, Labissiere, Williams, Cauley-Stein, Zubats. Well, that's not all the Suns front court, clearly. Len is the bottom of that group. He's just not playing enough. To me, you want... I guess it depends on what you need, but I would look at Cauley-Stein first. I'd look at Williams next. Chris and Labissiere and Zubats in a pretty similar zone. Probably have Zubats just a little bit ahead, but it's all pretty close. And they're probably going to be ins and outs of your lineup most of the time. The solid guy there you want is Cauley-Stein, and Williams is going to be pretty solid. Jorge Colon III says, Zubats or Brogdon in a dynasty? What do you want? Big man or small man? I think that Zubats has got more potential long term. Brogdon's already 24. I think he is who he is. So Zubats has got more value to move forward with. All right, let's take a quick break, and then I'm going to be back, and we're going to preview the 6 games from Thursday for DFS.
Now I had a dream of you on that cold September night. I had nothing left to look forward to. I thought you were all I wanted, but I never really knew just what you could do. Never want to leave you, 'cause I think it's worth to be alone. Times like this I wonder if I'd be better on my own. The constant torture of this love, something I might just disown. 'Cause I've got to wonder if I'd be better off alone. It seems I give and you just take. I try to speak my mind. Won't you listen for heaven's sake? I try not to raise my voice, but you've given me no choice. Why can't you understand? Never want to leave you, 'cause I think it's worth to be alone. Times like this I wonder if I'd be better on my own. The constant torture of this love, something I might just disown. 'Cause I've got to wonder if I'd be better off alone. You are impossible, but I know I still love you. So what can I do? I'll put on my happy face. I'll pretend it's all okay.
All right, guys, we're back. Let's talk perfect DFS lineups on FanDuel. Dame Lillard had 47.6 and Tyler Eulis had 38.7. CJ McCollum 37.8 and Lou Williams at 48.3. Paulie George 52.5 and Kawhi at 61.8. Willie Cauley-Stein 47.7 and Skal Labissiere at 46.2, and at center DeAndre Jordan 47.4 for a total of 428, and that cost 59,800 on DraftKings. Rajon Rondo 42. Lou Williams 53.5, Paul George 57.25, Labissiere at 50.25, Cauley-Stein 51.25, Eulis 41.25, Kawhi 65.25, and DeAndre Jordan 50.75, and that was a total of 411.5 for a cost of $49,700. There are 6 games on. You know what I'm thinking now? Now, today I just missed out on cashing, even though I had Bledsoe in a lineup, and I cashed on Moneyball, where I was playing, finished pretty high actually in Moneyball. I reckon I'm retiring from DFS for this season. I think that there is just too much wackiness going on at the moment, and or if I don't retire, I'll definitely be going with lower volume. I had a really successful season, but this last month of the season, we're seeing just whack shit happen all over the place. I reckon I'm hanging up the spreadsheet for the rest of the year, and I think I might be done for DFS. I'm obviously still going to be doing this part of the show and talking about it, but I don't think myself I'm going to be playing now. I'm not going to be able to tell you guys to don't play, and I think that's obviously not something I'm going to do because you'll play. But I would seriously consider lowering volume on certain slates at least, just because there's going to be a lot more variance happening and a lot more stuff that you can't control and a lot more late. Look, as I said, Bledsoe today warmed up. He warmed up, and then the Suns go, sorry, man, you're done for the year. There is no way he had knee soreness. This bothers me irrationally. He didn't have knee soreness. He warmed up. He was ready to play, and they've come in with the hook around the neck. Oh, see you later. You're off. That's why I'm not there. James, what's this? Drop the bomb on us. Oh yes, you talking about the Bledsoe news, James? James has just commented, "I've dropped the bomb." I assume that's what you're talking about there. It still bothers me unbelievably that we're just so early into with a month to go in the season, and he was there. He was warming up, ready to play, and that's why I think I'll be lowering my volume, or probably not playing at all, to be honest, in DFS for the rest of the year, and at least until we hit the playoffs. Let's talk about these games now. Oklahoma City and Toronto. We have got Damari Carroll is the injury we need to check up on. He's missed the last couple of games with an ankle problem, and Norm Powell has started those games and played 30 minutes in both of them. And weirdly, PJ Tucker has played less minutes in those games. We've seen an increase in playing time from Jakob Poeltl and from Fred Van Vliet with Carroll out. So that'll be interesting to see if that's the route they go down in this one. With the Thunder Bigs, we might see a little bit more from Jakob Poeltl. Let's talk point guards. Corey Joseph is at 4,800. Has been a little bit underwhelming recently. I don't think that's too much of a secret. The matchup against Westbrook is a marginal positive for him. I don't think that he's got a very strong, a very high upside or anything like that. He could be a solid cash play, but I don't really think that he is a great DFS option just because of who he is, really. As for Westbrook, 13,500. That is obviously a very, very big salary, but it's a limited slate. So I think that you can consider using him, especially in cash. I think he's going to have fairly high ownership. He's averaging 65 points across the last 5, which is pretty bloody close to getting that 13,500 level of value. So Russ definitely has some appeal there. 13,000 on DraftKings. I thought he'd be a little bit higher, to be honest, on DraftKings, but there's still something there to see with him. Delon Wright playing extra as well recently, 3,800 for Delon. If Damari Carroll is out, I wouldn't be totally against using Delon as a GPP guy. He could outplay Corey Joseph again, and he could get some minutes along the wing, which is, again, what we saw in the last game. And he had 24 points in that one at 3,800. That's not a bad result. It's not a great one, but it's not bad. I don't think that I would do it myself. Shooting guard DeMar DeRozan at 9,300. On the surface, the value doesn't look awesome, but there's really not a huge amount of guys to go for on this slate of games. So at that sort of price, he can be used. I think you've got, if you're spending up, it's Westbrook, it's LeBron. They're your two big money guys on this slate of games, and Jokic as well, with Steph sort of hovering at the back, but Steph hasn't really been at that level really too much this year. 9,300 for DeMar is fine if you're spending up on shooting guards. DeRozan comes in over on DraftKings at 8,300. That's a much more appealing price, and I actually quite like that salary for him over there. Vic Oladipo's at 6,000. I'm not sure he's got really much upside, but I think that there's great cash value in Oladipo at 6,000. I really do think that's a solid spot. Well, 6,500 for him on DraftKings probably feels just a little bit too high at the moment. Small forward Andre Robertson and Damari Carroll. I don't think I would want to use I definitely don't want to use Robertson. Carroll had 33 points in his last game before the ankle problem. At 4,200, there's some GPP upside there, but there is definitely no sort of cash reliability in PJ Tucker. No, thank you. Power forwards, Serge Ibaka really, really struggling. He's averaging 17 points in the last 3 games. He's doing absolutely nothing. But we saw in his one game against the Thunder when he played for Orlando, he went bananas. He had 48 points in that. And for anyone who wants to get on a revenge game narrative, this might be the one to do it in. $6,000 for Serge. Definitely go with him in GPPs, but I don't like it in cash. I actually think that Taj is worth a look here. 4,200 for Taj Gibson. 29 points in 24 minutes in the last game. I think his minutes are trending up. I think we could be seeing him maybe get to 27 or 28. There's a chance of that. And that could obviously be a big boon if you could get that sort of playing time happening. So he's worth a look. Don't trust it fully, but at that price, it's definitely not expensive. 56 for Enes Kanter is a good price, but I'm not sure that I'm falling for it in this game. Jonas Valanciunas. Have actually we got any other power forwards? No. Let's talk Valanciunas. 5,600 for JV. He had 32 in the last game. He's averaging 30 over his last 5 at 5,600. I don't know what Dwayne Casey is going to do, because Dwayne Casey doesn't do stuff that always makes a ton of sense. But Steve Adams, Enes Kanter matchups, I don't think that they should be scaring Valanciunas off, or shouldn't be scaring Casey off from using Valanciunas. So I do actually really like his GPP upside. If they give him 30 minutes, he could easily have 18 and 10, get a couple of blocks, and that repays at 5,600. So I do think that there is something to see there with Valanciunas, just based on how the matchups look. I wouldn't be looking at Steve Adams too hard at 5,200. All right, let's move on to the next game. We've got the Utah Jazz and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Should be a good matchup. Interested to watch this one. The Cavs are favored by 7, and the total is 208.5. Rocket Rodney Hood is currently questionable. Stunned if he played. I don't think that Rocket is in. Shelvin Mack, it doesn't really matter, and Kyle Korver is questionable for the Cavs. With Rocket likely out, we're going to see a lot of Joe Ingles, and he becomes a very valuable option. At point guard, Georgie Hill is at 6,300. George has got a great matchup against Kyrie. His numbers haven't really been living up to a salary of $6,300 recently, though, so I'm not totally into that. At 63 on DraftKings, it's probably worse, but he does have a little bit of upside. I just don't think it's the right spot for him. As for Kyrie at 9,100, love Kyrie, but no way. Not in this sort of a negative matchup. Not interested. DraftKings, 7,900 for Kyrie. Yeah, now I'm interested. That's an $800 price dip for Kyrie after his last game. He can get you 40, no worries. He could easily get you 45. I don't think I'd totally lock in cash, but for GPPs, Kyrie is shaping up as being one of the best options out there, I think, at that sort of a salary. Darren Williams, no. Dante Exum minimum salary. If Rocket is out, he'll play a little bit more, but nothing to really get us too excited. At shooting guard, well, Rocket's not playing, so we don't worry about him. Iman Shumpert, J.R. Smith, Kyle Korver. I don't think we want to look at any of those players, to be honest. Although both Smith and Shumpert both had over 20 points in the last game, and they're both sub $4,000 guys. So that might be worth looking at. But if Korver returns, then they're both going to have a somewhat cap on what they can do. As for Jinglin Joe, he's a $4,000 player. He had 23 points today. Really like him. If Rocket is out, especially, really good value there. While Joe Johnson at 3,600, great value for Joe. He put up 26 today. He should continue to start and should continue to get the bulk of the minutes there. I don't really see that Boris Diaw is going to be a big impediment. He can easily match up against Dick Jefferson. Really like this for Joe Johnson. As for Gordie Hayward at 7,800, yep, fine. Don't hate it for cash, like it for GPPs. There's a bit to see there. 6,900 for Gordo over on DraftKings is pretty exciting value there too. Now, LeBron is at 10,500. I love that salary's come down. Now, the Jazz are probably not an ideal matchup just because of the slower pace, but at 10,500, LeBron is worth looking at. He has averaged 53 points in his last 5 games. He had only 45 in the last one, but that was a blowout victory where he got a triple-double in limited minutes. At 10.5, he is totally fine to consider. LeBron on DraftKings at 10.4, probably not quite as good, not quite as appealing, but there's definitely some sort of value for LeBron over there. Power forwards. Diaw, no thank you. Channing Frye, no. I didn't even talk about Dickie Jefferson. He's at 3,700. He had a decent game in the last one, but I just don't really see it there too much with him. At centre, Rudy Gobert, 7,700, just feels a little bit too high against a Cavs team that does limit centres. 68 for Rudy on DraftKings, I like it a lot. There's a real chance of him getting 37 or 38 points. In fact, he's averaging 43 on DraftKings over the last 5 games. I think that's a really good spot for him. Tristan Thompson, less interested, 55, and against Gobert, that is not a good situation. He's at 45 on DraftKings, Tristan, so that obviously just increases the appeal, especially with a $600 price dip. But at 4,500, I'm not totally sold on Tristan Thompson there. I would much rather go in a different direction at center than take him at that sort of a salary. All right, let's crack on and look at the next game. Memphis and Atlanta. The Hawks are favored by 3.5, and the total is 203 points. Let's talk about the point guards here. I like this matchup for both of the point guards, more so for Conley. He's at 7,700. He had 46 today, and we know the Atlanta teams can be a bit of a boost for opposition points. So he is definitely someone that I look at 7,700. Conley comes in at 76 on DraftKings, still with definite appeal. He dropped 51 with DraftKings scoring today, so I do like that still. As for Schroeder, well, the defense of Memphis turns me off him a bit, but he has been crushing it with a 38-point average across his last 5. He's at 7,400. There is a little bit to see there, but I would rather take Conley over Schroeder, but I definitely wouldn't be counting Schroeder out. Andy Harrison, Jose Calderon, not a lot to see. Schroeder on DraftKings, 6,400. Great price. Really, really like that. That's super value for him over there. He's averaging 41 over the last 5. Really, really like that. At shooting guard, Tone Allen, not much there. Timmy Hardaway at 56. I think that's worth looking at. He's the best of the wings on the Hawks. He is a little bit inconsistent, so that might make you lean towards him as a GPP guy. But at 52 on DraftKings, I feel a bit more confident about using him over there, but he's still not fully locked in as a core type player. At small forward, Vince Carter at 39 has got some upside, and there's not many cheap, the small forward slate is terrible, to be honest, for FanDuel tomorrow. So Vince at 39 might be that guy you throw in and hope that he turns in a 25-pointer, and maybe that's enough. Tabo and Kent Bazemore, really just GPP type plays also. The power forwards, Paulie Millsap's at 7,600. He's done well against Memphis in the past. It's not a matchup that's particularly bad for him. I like that at 7,600 for Paul. 71 on DraftKings is a great price. He averages 43 on DraftKings. He gets 43 at 7,100. You're pretty happy. His recent form has been good as well, Millsap, so I like that on both slates there. JaMychal Green and Zach Randolph, not much to see then. Randolph continues to be priced too highly. At center, Marc Gasol is at 7,700. Yes, he had a big game today, 47 points, but he hadn't quite been at that level at all, really. And Dwight Howard defense is something that doesn't make me all that interested in taking on or spending that sort of a salary on Gasol. As for Howard, the same thing. He's not touching the ball. He's got a face-off against Gasol. Not really anything to like there about Dwight in this matchup. Let's move on to the next game now. We've got Brooklyn taking on the New York Knicks again, the second game in a row that they're facing each other. The Knicks are favored by 3.5, and the total is 221 points. Porzingis. Yes, he is doubtful. So we're going to get big doses of Billy Hernan-Gomez. We're going to get big Lance Thomas, and we're probably going to get a little bit of a reintroduction to Kylo Quinn. The Knicks are favored by the 3.5, as I mentioned. At point, actually for the Nets, we have got Joe Harris has been ruled out, as has Sean Kilpatrick. So there's a lot of guard minutes to come to some of these players. Isaiah Whitehead is very far from sexy. He is at 3,500. He's going to have to see quite a few minutes in this game. I don't know how well his production is going to actually do that. He's averaging 18 points in 26 minutes, but he's probably going to have to see 30 minutes or so in this game. So he is someone that you might consider. I wouldn't do it strongly. Same with Spencer Dinwiddie. They're going to have to see some minutes. There's not a lot to see with either of those guys despite the matchup. I like Jeremy Lin at 5,900. I feel like he's still going to be a really solid show of getting over 30 points, and at 5,900, that's obviously a pretty good result. At 6,000 on DraftKings, I'm probably less enthused with using Jezza over there. Derrick Rose, let's talk him. He's gone up to 6,800 despite averaging 23 points over the last 3. There is no chance that I want anything to do with Derrick Rose. He just doesn't. It's almost $7,000. There's no way that I want Derrick Rose at that salary. He's at 67 on DraftKings again. Just way too high. Shooting guard, Courtney Lee at 5,000. That gives you no scope for improvement, no upside on Courtney Lee there, and he doesn't have a safe floor, so that's a no from me. Justin Holiday will get some extra run with Porzingis out, but no more than a GPP type of a play, while Karis LeVert at 4,400 has shot the ball very well. That probably won't continue. His minutes aren't awesome, but there aren't many great cheap shooting guards around. So LeVert is a guy that you can look at. I wouldn't do it as a core option, but he definitely has one of the best outlooks of one of those cheap shooting guards or small forwards. Randy Foye is another guy that you want to pay some attention to with both Kilpatrick and Harris out. He played 28 minutes in the last game. He only put up 19 points. But at 3,600, a starter who could get 30 minutes definitely goes into your GPP pool, especially someone who can get hot and hit threes like Randy can do. We have seen him do that in the past. And that can be something that obviously works in your favor if he happens to get it going. Small forwards, Rondae's at 4,400. I have no ability to trust that. Mallow at 84, that's a big price jump for Carmelo. 81 on DraftKings, but with so few small forwards who are worth a look, he is still worth a look. He can drop 40 with the best of them, you know that. It's not a great cash play, but it is a GPP type of a situation. Lance Thomas is a GPP guy as well at 4,300, who should be seeing 30 plus minutes with Porzingis out. He's at 4,000 on DraftKings as well. For the power forwards, Trev Booker at 51, I just don't trust that at all. While Quincy Acey, no thanks there. At center, Billy Hernan-Gomez, $6,000. Yes, love it. He's probably one of my core players for the day. Really like that. 6,200 on DraftKings. That's a bit of a price hike, but I still think that he can exceed that value. I prefer him on DraftKings, but I do like that. I prefer him on FanDuel, but I do like him on DraftKings. Kylo Quinn at 40. We know that Kylo Quinn, if he gets just 24 minutes, he can easily exceed that value. So he becomes a GPP option, especially on DraftKings, where he is at 3,900. You can definitely not expect him to do it, but hope that he does it, and that's the whole point of a GPP, and that's where that works for him. Brookie Lopez at $7,000. I think that Lopez feels okay as a cash play at that price. It's not an expensive price. He's at 68 on DraftKings. I feel pretty good about it. I don't know how high his upside is, but I feel pretty good about Brook at that sort of a salary. All right, let's move on to the second last game of the night. We've got the Los Angeles Clippers and the Denver Nuggets. The Clippers, as I mentioned, they are sitting DeAndre Jordan. They are sitting Blake Griffin. So there's a lot to open up in that front court. I don't know what they're going to do at that point. At this stage, we've got Brandon Bass, we've got Wes Johnson, we've got Luke Marmute, who might push to the 4 as Austin Rivers starts at the 3. We've got Mo Spates, who's almost definitely going to be the starting center. So a lot of value is going to open up for these players. For Denver, we've already got the Rooster out. We've got Wilson Chandler out. We've got Ken Fareed, who's listed as questionable as well. So some value opening up for Denver also. So there's a lot to see in this game, and this is going to be a very interesting game to try and attack in DFS. At point guard, Jamal Murray, the Blue Arrow, he is at $4,000. He put up 31 in the last game, trending towards getting more minutes. And with Will Barton having to play more at the 3 with that injury to the Rooster and Wilson Chandler, I think we're going to see pretty good minutes from Murray, and that makes him a very, very good play at $4,000. I do really like using the Blue Arrow at that sort of a salary. I'm not a massive fan of Jameer Nelson. He's just not getting anything done, and at $5,000, he's just far from returning value. Chrissy Paul is up to $9,800. It's a great matchup for him. He doesn't have Blake or DeAndre around. I'm not sure I'm totally into him at that price, but the situation definitely works in his favor. I can totally see that working for him over there. Not fully into it. Wouldn't lock him in. Wouldn't think he's a cash great option, but he is a GPP play, almost no doubt about it in my mind. Chris Paul at that sort of a salary, but they have preemptively risen his price even before they knew this news of no Blake or no DeAndre. So that helps his outlook to some degree. I guess it's not a full helping. It's not a full assist to what he can do. At shooting guard, Will Barton at 5,300. I like that. He had 33 points in the last game. I'm not a Will Barton fan, but as the minutes open up, he will produce, so that's fine at 5,300. This is a great opportunity for him. And I think Jamal Crawford at 4,000 opens himself up to become a really good GPP option. He's going to take a lot of those shots that Blake would take. We've seen him step his scoring up and shooting up when Griffin is out before, so I like Jamal there. JJ Redick as a GPP guy also opens up with a little bit of value. Gaz Harris. He's at 5,900 on FanDuel, maybe a little bit high, but again, with the wings being cleared out, it's not going to be all that difficult for him to get there. So I think he's okay, but I'm not totally locking into Gaz. The small forwards, Marmute, Johnson, Paul Pierce, there's nothing to see with those guys. Power forwards is where it's at. Mo Spates is at 3,500. He's going to have to start at center. He jacks threes, he can block some shots. I think this is a great spot to use Spates. It's going to be really hard not to use him at that salary. You might not, because you might have cash left over and just need to upgrade that spot. But this is a really good situation for Spates there. And Juancho Hernan-Gomez at 36. I imagine that Juancho starts. And at 3,600, he should be a fairly much a lock to give you value at that sort of a price. Nikola Jokic at 10,600. Doesn't have DeAndre Jordan to bother with. That's maybe pushing it a little bit, that price, just for him to bring value back. So I'm not totally sold on him, especially when there are a lot of other value plays around. But if you want to spend up at center, he is going to be one of those guys. Brandon Bass is a minimum salary power forward as well. Maybe he gets the start. Maybe he gets the minutes. He gets 26 minutes. He could achieve value as well. We need to find out some more information from the Clippers during the day before we make those decisions. Mason Plumlee might get himself another start. He's at 5,800. He's averaging 31 over the last 5 games. At 5,800, if we hear that Mason is starting, I think that you can say that he is a pretty solid cash option. And that's it for those guys. Let's move on to the last game of the night before we get out of here. It is the Orlando Magic and the Golden State Warriors. Not ideal. The Warriors will obviously want to be a little bit better than they were against Philadelphia. They're favored by 13.5, and the total is 19. No, it isn't. It's 219 points. Let's talk point guard. Steph is at 10,100. He's got a real history of destroying the Magic. We've seen point guards destroy them in general. I think that he is a fine option at 10,100. I don't think that he is a core play, but I think he's fairly rock solid to get around 45 at least, with definite 55 to 60 point upside. As for Lord Alfred Payton, he is now 7,200. Yes, he is crushing it. He had a triple-double and 46 points in the last game. 44 average across his last 5 on FanDuel. That's obviously all fantastic, but it just feels a little bit high. 7,400 for him on DraftKings. I'm not saying not to use him. I think there is some GPP use there for him. At shooting guard, Clay is at 7,000, always a GPP guy. Or Evan Fournier at 55. I feel pretty good about Fournier. I always feel like he's a solid cash guy, sort of a player who doesn't necessarily have the highest upside. Pat McCaw, Hazonia, and Watson, Clark, none of those guys. Terry Ross at 4,100, strictly a GPP guy. He has struggled in a big way recently. At 47 on DraftKings, takes away a lot of his upside as well. While Andre Iguodala at 47, I don't really see the use of him at that price. Matty Barnes played 22 minutes and had 26 points in the last game. I don't love it. I don't see it. Don't really see much use there. Draymond's at 83. I think that's good to use Draymond there at that price. I think there is some decent value there for him at that sort of salary, so I do really like that. Asa Gordon is at 56. Also think that he is worth a look too. Draymond's at 8,000 on DraftKings, and there's definitely value in the tank there. At center, Nikola Vucevic at 7,700. We've seen centers recently against the Warriors perform a little bit better. Vooch is putting up good numbers, but I'm not sure I'm ready to risk him. But I do think he's got tournament upside. I think that he can be a 45-pointer at 7,700, and that can be useful. So I think that Vooch is a GPP sort of a player. Zaza, there's not really much for me to say about him. All right, let's go to the picks of the day now. FanDuel, Jamal Murray, $4,000. Mick Conley, 7,700, and Steph is at 10,100. Not small forward, shooting guard. Karis LeVert, 44. Farton Will Barton, 53. And DeMar DeRozan, 93. Vincie Carter at 39. Gordie Hayward at 78. And Mallow at 84. Power forward, Juancho Hernan-Gomez, 36. Paul Millsap, 76. And Draymond at 83. And at center, Bill Hernan-Gomez, the only guy I really like at that salary. This was before the Clippers news came out, which literally came out about 2 minutes before I started this podcast. On DraftKings, Jamal Murray, 49. Dennis Schroeder, 64. And Steph at 95. Shooting guard Randy Foy, 3,000. Timmy Hardaway, 52, and DeRozan at 83. Small forward Karis LeVert, 4,000. Will Barton, 53, and Mallow at 81. One show at 39. Millsap at 71, and I had Griffin in there, but scratch him. Kylo Quinn at 39. Mason Plumlee, 55, and Draymond Green at 88. Of course, Mo Spates gets value on all these sites too. Moneyball, Jeremy Lin, 48. Dennis Schroeder, 72, and Chrissy Paul at 85. Shooting guard Jamal Murray, 4,000. Gary Harris at 53. DeMar DeRozan at 88. Lance Thomas at 35. Mallow at 75, and LeBron at 12,000. At power forward, one shows at 35. Aaron Gordon at 55, and Draymond at 8,000. And at center, O'Quinn at 43. Hernan Gomez, Willie, 57, and Jokic at 97. On draft stars, Jamal Murray, 68. Conley, 13, and Russ, 23-4. Shooting guard Joe Ingles, 5'7", Timmy Hardaway, 9'2", and Steph at 17-5. At small forward, one shows at 50-50. Gordie Hayward, 11'8", and Draymond at 15-2. Kylo Quinn at 6'5", Mason Plumlee, 10'9", and Jokic at 18-2. And at center, Willie Hernan Gomez, 9'4", and DeAndre Jordan has been scratched. So forget that one. We are done here, guys. Follow me on Twitter at redrock_bball. Share the show around on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever you can. It always is very helpful. And leave a review if you get that chance. That would be sensational. We are done here, guys. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Jaylen Brown